Quick question. Do you know the difference between a personal brand and a leadership brand? Most people don't, and it actually matters. Now, your personal brand is what people think about you. Your leadership brand, though, that's about the impact that you create. It's how you lead, it's how you think, it's your philosophy, the change that you're making visible in the world. I have a gift for you because each week I teach an absolutely free class called the Leadership Brand Class, where I walk you through our leadership brand methodology. We help you close the gap between the impact that you are already making in your career and your business and how visible that impact actually is. Because here's the truth. Visibility without substance is just noise. But impact without visibility, that's a missed opportunity. And most leaders that we work with are on the wrong side of that equation. So join me at leadershipbrandclass.com. It's free, it's every week, and it will change how you think about your leadership and how others think about you so that you're compensated for the impact that you actually create. For the first time in generations, the very idea of what it means to work is being absolutely rewritten. We are all having to learn how to thrive through this entrepreneurial era. The promise of success was simple. I can hear my parents: get a good job, work hard, build a great family, retire comfortably. And that model worked until it didn't. We used to plan careers like we were climbing a ladder, and now it's like a jungle gym. Over 80,000 jobs have been eliminated in 2025 alone. Stability now lives in your ability to adapt. This rise in self-sufficiency, and it's the end of waiting to be chosen. It's about ownership. It's about looking at yourself and saying, you know what? I'm a brand. The ability to build work around the kind of life that you want to live and not the other way around. The future of work is already here. We are living in it. Welcome to the Let's Thrive Together podcast, where we are sharing real stories of real leaders thriving not only in their career in business, but also in your life. I'm your host, Brittany N, keynote speaker, author of Thrive Through It, and the CEO of Career Thrivers, where we work with executives and organizations to build bold leaders and resilient teams. Welcome back to the show. Let's talk about this shift that we're in right now, because we are living through one of the biggest workplace transformations in modern history. For the first time in generations, the very idea of what it means to work is being absolutely rewritten because of what's happening right here. Technology is advancing faster than our policies, faster than regulation. Automation is reshaping entire industries. And what we value in our career is fundamentally different than it was even 5 years ago. Work is no longer about this sense of stability. It's about having a feeling of significance. And when we think about the future, well, the future really belongs to those who know how to blend both, right? When I look at what's happening across industries, from corporate teams to creative entrepreneurs, I see a single theme that is emerging everywhere, and that is this rise of the entrepreneurial mindset. And this isn't just about starting a business, right? Hear me well. It's about the shift from employment as an identity to work being a vehicle for more impact, definitely more freedom, and more choice, right? Our world is changing. And whether you're leading a company, you're building one, or you're just trying to figure out your next career move after a layoff or a restructure, right? We are all having to learn how to thrive through this entrepreneurial era, right? When I think about most of the 20th century, the promise of success was simple. I can hear my parents, right? You probably can hear yours too. Get a good job, work hard, right? Build a great family, retire comfortably. And that model worked until it didn't, right? Student loan debt statistics tell us that. Today, that predictable path is fractured. There is a study from the World Economic Forum that projects that by 2027, 44% of workers' skills will be absolutely disrupted by AI and automation. McKinsey states that up to 30% of tasks across 60% of occupations could be automated within the next decade. And the US Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that people now hold on average 12 jobs in their lifetime. And that number is continuing to rise. I mean, my parents would think that that number is outrageous, right? We used to plan careers like we were climbing a ladder, and now it's like a jungle gym, right? Less linear, more creative, stopping and starting, getting off, trying something different, hopping back on the monkey bars. I mean, it's far more personal. So what does it look like for employers? Well, this means that the definition of loyalty has changed, that people aren't leaving companies because they don't care. They're leaving because they crave more alignment, more fulfillment. They want work that matters, work that reflects their values, and to make room for who they are as people, right? Their humanity. And for individuals, right, or talent, as HR people would say, it means that we can no longer think of stability as something that a company provides, right? Stability now lives in your ability to adapt, right? Your adaptability is stability. So if you can learn, if you can evolve, if you can lead yourself through change, then you'll never be left behind, right? So we got to make this shift from security to self-sufficiency, because we're seeing these early stages of a cultural reset, right? A generation ago, entrepreneurship was the exception. Now it's almost becoming the expectation. In 2024, Upwork Freelance Forward produced a report that found over 64 million Americans, coming up on 50% of the US workforce, earned income from freelance work last year. And Gen Z, it's over 50%, it's 53%. 53% of Gen Z professionals already freelance or have some sort of side business. So that is telling us something. It is yelling at us, right? That people aren't just chasing opportunity, they are creating it. We are moving from a system where companies owned the means of production, and we're moving into this system where an individual can own the means of creativity.
If I asked you right now, on a scale from 1 to 10, how strong is your leadership brand? Most people would just guess, but you don't have to. We've created the Leadership Brand Assessment to give you an actual score on where you stand, your impact, your visibility, and the gap between those two. Because that gap, the distance between what you've built and what the world actually sees, that's where your influence is hiding, and that's where your income is hiding too. That's where your next opportunity is waiting. And it only takes 3 minutes. It's absolutely free, and it'll tell you exactly where to focus next. So take the assessment now at scoremyleadershipbrand.com.
When I talk about this entrepreneurial mindset era, it's almost as if there's this democratization of work, this rise in self-sufficiency, and it's the end of waiting to be chosen, waiting until you've put enough time in, right? And when we think about this mindset, we've got to be clear that not everyone needs to start a business, right, to think like an entrepreneur. So let's talk about this mindset for a minute, because entrepreneurship isn't about incorporation papers or a logo or a website or Instagram launches. It's about ownership, right? It's about looking at yourself and saying, you know what? I'm a brand. I'm a problem solver, right? And I value creating, whether you are leading inside of a Fortune 500 company or you're running your own consultancy. So when I think about this, there really are like two types of entrepreneurs that are emerging right now. And I like to think of it in these two buckets. One is entrepreneurs by choice, right? People that are building a business based on their passion. They are creating products, content, movements out of problems that they see. And then the second bucket is entrepreneurs by necessity. These are people that are adapting to shifting jobs, the economy, building side hustles, freelancing as a form of stability or as a form of salary replacement. And both are reshaping the labor market. So together, these two buckets are really changing how employers need to think about talent, right? As leaders, we can no longer expect our teams to act like lifetime employees. That's just unrealistic in 2025 and beyond. We need to engage them like strategic partners, because your most talented employees are thinking entrepreneurially, whether you acknowledge it, whether you make space for it or not, right? They're optimizing, they're creating, and they're innovating. And that is not a threat. Let me say it again to the leader that can't bring their mind to understand. That is not a threat, it is an asset. Forward-thinking companies will embrace this shift. They will create environments where employees can innovate right inside of their 9 to 5, right? Instead of feeling like you have to leave in order to grow, or you have to quietly build and not let anyone know that you have something else that you're doing, like half of the workforce, right? And this is about creating internal ecosystems for creativity, autonomy, ownership, right? When I started Career Thrivers, I left a 12-year career at Pfizer, and I set out to build a business to solve a problem that I was seeing when I was side hustling, right? How to help leaders and organizations thrive through change with purpose and authenticity, and how to help companies retain high-performing talent. And over the years, I've uncovered there's something deeper there, right? That the future of work is really about reclaiming a level of authorship of your life, right? And entrepreneurship for me has truly become that bridge between helping leaders do that and helping companies to create the kind of environment that gives their talent agency, that helps them find alignment in the work that they're doing, and gives freedom to design the kind of work that fits the kind of life that you want, and not the other way around, right? And that's what so many professionals are craving right now, the ability to build work around the kind of life that you want to live, and not building your life around your work. And I would say that that's not rebellion, right? That's evolution. That is rethinking what it means to build wealth, right? Because this conversation is changing too. You're listening in to the Let's Thrive Together podcast, powered by Career Thrivers. Career Thrivers is a workforce development and leadership branding firm where we work directly with organizations, helping you with your organizational development strategy, but also your learning and development as you are building your next level leaders. If you are looking to retain top talent, inspire your leaders, or cultivate the leadership brands as executives within your organization, then make sure you head on over to careerthrivers.com to learn more about how you can work with us. For a long time, especially when you add in the generational dynamic of this conversation, for a long time, wealth meant the accumulation of income, assets, status. But as the nature of work shifts, people are redefining wealth as well-being, the ability to live fulfilled, to live in alignment with your values, to spend time how you choose. This aspect of freedom that is so central to Gen Z especially, right? Creating without constraint, right? This is where I see a huge opportunity for both individuals, but also employers, because this next generation of top talent, they're not looking for just a paycheck, right? They're looking for purpose and possibility. They want to work with and inside of organizations that understand wealth holistically as freedom, growth, impact, and your income plan, right? And so when you consider that, right, that's why emotional wellness, flexibility, belonging, right, have truly become business imperatives, because without well-being, right, your wealth isn't as sustainable. And for leaders and entrepreneurs alike, that means that success must include sustainability. So this hustle mentality that we sometimes glorify, or wearing burnout like a badge of honor, is outdated, right? We are in this age of creating the kind of pace of work that allows for flexibility, that allows for freedom, that allows for thriving. So what does thriving look like in this new landscape? At Career Thrivers, we think of it as the new playbook for work. And there are really 3 skills that define success in this era. And I want to share them with you. The first is learn, right? The ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn will outpace every hard skill that you have today, because the shelf life on your technical skills is now less than 3 years, depending on the skill set. So that means curiosity isn't only a trait, it must be a strategy. And the most adaptable professionals treat learning like oxygen, constantly asking, what's next? What am I learning? What is changing? How can I explore what's next? Let me try this tool, right? The second is leverage. Technology is no longer a tool, it's a teammate, right? That's the approach that you have to take to AI. So leverage using systems, automation, AI to extend your capacity instead of replacing your creativity. And there's such a subtle balance there, right? And for organizations, it means moving out of this space of fear and giving people access to the tools that can help them work smarter and not just harder. Because a thriving workforce in 2025 and beyond is a technologically empowered one that is using AI. And then lastly, lead. In this new era, everyone is a leader. Leadership isn't just tied to your title, it's tied to influence. So whether you are leading yourself, leading a team, leading a project, or a platform, your ability to communicate clearly, right, and inspire action is what drives progress. And that's where we think about, what does it look like to influence others within the workforce? What does it look like to leverage the stories of people inside of your organization who understand that their credibility is currency? They know how to tell their story. They know how to communicate their value. They know how to connect with an audience, both inside and outside of your organization. And as employers, it is an opportunity that isn't just smart, it is strategic. Strategic for your recruitment, your retention, your engagement. It turns your team members, your employees into brand ambassadors. It amplifies your company's credibility and the recruitment power of your firm, corporation, right? And so this is about what the future is going to look like. And this shift towards entrepreneurial thinking inside of the workforce, it's not a threat, right? It will become a lifeline for companies. And so I want to encourage, especially executive leaders, those who are in those seats, don't resist this, right? This is how you retain and attract great talent. Embrace it. Embrace this sense of freedom and ownership that your team members want to have. Actually empower it. Give employees the autonomy to design solutions, right? Not just execute tasks. Reward their innovation, right? Recognize experimentation. Everyone wants to talk about failure until someone actually fails, right? So how do you reward that experimentation, not just the perfection in real time, right? Encourage visibility. Support those who are building their leadership brand on LinkedIn externally. That elevates the organization's reputation. And then integrate flexibility, right? Trust your people enough to give them the space to produce their best work in ways that honor their lives. When employees feel like owners and not just executors, engagement rises. And when engagement rises, so does performance as well. So when we think about this future of workforce development, it's about retention, yes, but I think it's also about relationship and creating these environments through great leaders where people choose to stay because they are seen, they are valued, and they are trusted. Right? And this becomes the cornerstone of how you connect human intelligence with artificial intelligence, because technology may be a catalyst, but humanity is still the differentiator. So as we think about automation taking over repetitive tasks, what remains is this irreplaceable, deeply human skill of creativity, communication, empathy, resilience. And in this era of the marketplace, of the workforce, emotional intelligence is central to artificial intelligence, right? Well-being is a productivity metric. And so when organizations prioritize health and inclusion and belonging, you don't only protect your people, you protect the performance of your company. You win now and in the future because you are making space for people to be people. You're making space for people to cultivate relationships that make them want to stay at your firm. So this entrepreneurial era, it is here. right? It is where you will connect your skills and your strategy, your goals, your growth, your work, your well-being, right? To really find good integration and good synergy in your work and in your life, right? And you may not always feel perfectly balanced. That's not really the goal, but you can be aligned. And for individuals, that means choosing your projects, partnerships, and pathways that reflect your actual values, right? So you need to know what those are. And for leaders, it means designing teams and systems that support those same values. So this next generation of thriving companies will be those that lead with humanity and with clarity and with the resilience of their people, but also the innovative nature of their people in mind. And if there's one thing that this new era is teaching me, it's that waiting for the perfect time, it is over. Because we talk about the future of work, right? But the future of work is already here. We are living in it. Over 80,000 jobs have been eliminated in 2025 alone. So you have the power to design your career, your business, the lifestyle that aligns with who you are and who you're becoming. And for some, that might mean finally launching that idea that you journal about, that you dream about, that's sitting in the notes on your laptop. For others, it could mean finally going after the promotion or renegotiating how you work so that your calendar reflects your priorities, or actually asking for the raise that you've been putting off for 2 or 3 quarters, right? You don't have to have every detail figured out, but I do want to encourage you to take a step in that next direction of thriving. That momentum through your action will create the kind of clarity that you need to really fuel your confidence, right? To let those innovative ideas and that entrepreneurial mindset fly. And if you're leading a team, I want to challenge you to think about your culture through a new lens. What if your organization became a launching pad and not just a landing place? What if you cultivated leaders who could thrive both inside of your company and beyond it? What if you invested in people's entrepreneurial potential, not from this place of losing control, but expanding influence? Because your best people, they don't want to leave, right? But they do want to lead. And when you create space for them to lead beyond the confines of what was in that job description when they said yes, you future-proof not only your business, but also your brand. So here's something that I want you to think about this week to really put the principles of what we've been talking about in this episode to practice, right? Whether it's in your personal life or your professional life, I want you to think about a new idea or even a system that might need improvement and treat it like a business, right? Take on that entrepreneurial mindset and really consider, what does it look like for you to take that next step? When you think about your wealth, what does living with enough look like for you, or more than enough, right? What kind of impact do you want to have? What type of income do you want to have? Write it down and let that definition guide your decision making, right? Initiate a conversation with someone about that future, the future of your work and the future of the work of your team members more broadly. And if you are an employee, talk to your leader about that. Initiate that conversation. If you're a leader, if you're an executive, ask your team, hey, how do you want to grow and create value here at our organization? Because the future of work isn't a spectator sport. It's something that we are all shaping together every single day, because the workforce, as we've known, it is transforming. And with it is this definition of success that's transforming, security, and sustainability. So we're not just surviving this change or waiting until it's all over or waiting until the storm passes or waiting until we retire or waiting. No, we are shaping it, right? This is the era of the entrepreneurial leader or intrapreneurial, right? The visionary employee, the collaborative founder, the courageous creator, right? Whether you're working inside of a company or beyond it, right? This is your opportunity to really connect who you are with the work that you choose to do every single day. So thank you so much for joining me on this episode. If this episode sparked a new idea for you, share it with someone. Share it with someone that might be navigating their next chapter in their life or in their career. And then make sure you come on over and connect with us at letsThriveTogether.com. Grab your copy of the second edition of Thrive Through It if you want to go deeper into building resilience around this entrepreneurial mindset, thinking about your purpose and your leadership in this new world of work. And until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and keep thriving. I'll see you on the next episode.